I have one life, limited health regeneration, and Herobrine is recoded back into the game. My 3 new goals for these next 100 days. First, get myself something I've never owned in survival before, a trident. Second, find and conquer an ocean monument. And third, find out wherever Herobrine goes when he runs into the fog. Let's go. On the night of day 200, I returned from my fishing trip, only to discover that all the beds in my house were stolen. After shearing some more of my sheep, I crafted more beds and went to sleep. And you guessed it, as I was out fishing, Herobrine snuck into my house and stole all my beds. He really did not want me to sleep. After getting some much needed rest on day 201, I headed back down into my netherite mine and mined pretty aggressively for 1 ancient debris because we have some new patrons to add to the wall. Special thanks to Supersop and JJ for becoming patrons since the last video. I figured I'd need a lot of green wool to cover up all the torches spammed around my base, so day 203 and 4, I built these cool automatic wool farms. After reading some comments on my 200 days video, I realized that I didn't have Unbreaking 3 on my elytra or on my shovel. So after fixing that problem, I crafted up some health potions, and I was happy that I got that problem fixed because I was ready to go end busting and I would need a really good elytra. So I grabbed myself some more sugarcane, made some more rockets, and headed in to the end. I spent a few days in the end, but unfortunately I was not able to find an end city with a ship, which meant no elytra. But of course there's a few other things that you can get from the end cities. After sneaking around some end cities and gathering some of that sweet loot, I started killing every shulker I could find. Most of the time I went for some of the easier shulkers to kill, but when I felt really brave I would enter a room that was filled with shulkers. After getting what I really needed, some shulker shells, I found a gateway and made it back home. I now had myself 8 shulker boxes that I could use that would save me a lot of time while building. I also got a lot of gold in that trip I could use to make golden apples, and 2 diamond pickaxes that I could put together to get some pretty decent enchants on a silk touch pickaxe. Day 212, I was ready to get back to building. And as I was heading over to finish my villager breeder, I noticed out of the corner of my eye the wheat looked kinda weird. At first I thought it wasn't rendering quite right, but upon closer inspection I realized that it was yellow wool. Turns out Herobrine stole all my wheat, and I guess he got a wool farm of his own because he had a lot of yellow wool. So instead of building that day, I had to remove all the wool that Herobrine placed. Luckily by day 213 I had finished the outside of my villager breeder. I was going for a small jail type feel, but it looks like they roughed up the warden pretty bad. Day 214 and 15, I had some health potions brewing as I breeded up my animals. After everyone was well fed, I had a good amount of health potions to last me a while. And since Herobrine stole all my wheat, I decided I better get a better food source. I knew steak would be a lot of work to keep getting, so I decided to get one of the best food sources in the game. But to do that, I had to buy a bunch of apples, cookies, and some suspicious stew. And finally, I unlocked some golden carrots. I also realized that you can buy glistening watermelons, which are used to make health potions. Since the majority of my goals in this video took place in the water, I decided the best course of action would be to get Aqua Affinity, Depth Strider, and Respiration for my armor. That way I could mine faster, swim faster, and hold my breath longer underwater. And I guess Herobrine knew that I was getting more enchantments for my armor, because as I headed down into the basement, a pumpkin was dispensed onto my head. It scared me so bad. Then I realized that I never put a carpet down, and then I found where Herobrine put the dispenser. I was able to get the enchantments on my helmet, but of course I ran out of levels when I tried to enchant my boots. So I had to head to my Enderman farm, and I took that chance to fix my elytra and get enough levels to enchant my boots. I was planning to rebuild my wheat farm bigger and better, so on day 219 I decided to build a place to store all of my crops. The next day I went to grab all of my shulker boxes and head down into my mine. I collected a lot of cobblestone in these last 200 days, but I left a lot of it down in my mine. So I decided to go get it, but while I was down here I decided to mine for a few days. I of course got some diamonds, but I also mined into a natural cave where I found some more gold, and it's always amazing to find diamonds in a natural cave, even if it's just one. The next day I modified my furnace array to be able to smelt all this cobblestone at once, but while I'm editing this video I'm just sitting here thinking, why didn't I just use my silk touch pickaxe? But it's fine because I had a lot of lava pools around my base that I wanted to get rid of. I spent the rest of that day to day 226 turning all my cobblestone into stone while smoothing out all this land and getting rid of the trap that I built for Herobrine. Then I spent the next few days adding these pathways as well as these huge plots of land for my wheat farms. I wanted my wheat farms to be surrounded by a cute little broken down cobblestone wall. And you may be asking yourself, what's with all the yellow wool? Well, I decided to use the wool that Herobrine used to prank me to cover up my water sources and my torches, because the few scarecrows I put around my field don't do the best job at lighting it up. Now this was one of my favorite time lapses of the video. I filled my fenced in area with tons of wheat, and while I was planting it all, I had a little friend follow me around and eat some of my seeds. And now you can see that the yellow carpet blends in and is covered up by the wheat. I'm gonna need a little break from farming for a while. I spent day 236 gathering the resources together to finally get a completed beacon set up. And as I returned home, I was startled by another dispenser. I never knew how nimble Herobrine really was. He definitely has a lot better parkour skills than I do. And now that I think about it, he's also better at redstone than me. I can't believe how quick he was in and out of my base before I could even finish building my beacon. Day 237, I got all the green wool that I could find. I sheared my sheep and emptied my wool farm, and with the snap of my fingers, all the torches blipped away. Okay, but for real, it actually took me like 2 whole days to put all the torches under green carpets. And remember in 200 days when I cleared out this big area for a big build? Well, I spent day 239 and 240 outlining my build and putting down some torches and lighting up that outline. From this perspective, it kind of looks like I'm playing Minecraft Dungeons. Anyway, I realized it was a little too hard to build and place down torches, so I decided to place down all the torches first. And this is the outline to the outer walls of my kingdom. A pro tip to surviving in hardcore that I need to listen to myself is to not build at night. With the outline done, I made some good progress on the entrance to my kingdom. On day 241, I got some emeralds. I headed over to my villager trading hall, sold some iron for emeralds, got myself a cartographer, and bought myself an ocean explorer map that I could use to find an ocean monument. Buying the ocean explorer map reminded me that I had actually found a treasure map in 200 days. So I spent day 242 searching for treasure, and I found a heart of the sea which I could use to build a conduit. And since I was out in the ocean, I thought, how hard could it be to get a trident? So I found this nice little place where drown spawned. I built upwards using kelp, built this nice little platform out of wood, and spent the next several days fighting drown after drown. The drown with tridents are so OP, and they're so annoying to fight, so that's really why I never got a trident before. And while killing all of these drowned, I actually got 8 nautilus shells, just enough to build a conduit. And look at this guy, he had a trident and a nautilus shell. He thought he was so special. I killed a lot more guys with the tridents, and I could still not get one. And after killing this last guy, I felt so defeated. I began swimming up to the surface, and as I got closer to my little base, I saw a trident floating there. It was just about to break, but with it, I was able to complete the first of my goals. On day 250, I made it back to my base, and after enchanting a few iron shovels, I was able to get loyalty 3 on my trident, along with unbreaking 3, which is pretty nice. Then I threw mending on my trident, put this lure 2 fishing rod together with my own mending rod, and crafted myself up a conduit I could use to breathe underwater. Day 251, I tested out my trident on some sheep, and after all that adventure, I spent the next few days just mining and gathering some cobblestone. Then I went back over to make some progress on my big build. I finished adding the front of the base of my big wall, and this big area I would build a castle in one day was starting to look a little fortified. I also spent these days lighting up caves, covering up holes, and smoothing out the land. It also looks pretty cool lit up at night. After getting some progress done on my big build, I was ready to complete my second goal, to conquer an ocean monument. I spent day 260 preparing for the journey, crafting some different potions. And while crafting, I noticed that Herobrine was probably in my base again. He had unstacked several items in a lot of my chests, which was a little annoying. After reorganizing some of my things, I used a golden carrot to make a potion of night vision, which, if you add a fermented spider eye to, it will produce a potion of invisibility. Then I lengthened the time of the invisibility effect using redstone. Next, I crafted up a bunch of doors that I could use to breathe underwater with, as well as use as cover. And lastly, I got some milk that I could use to negate the mining fatigue effect. And on day 261, I was off to find the ocean monument. And I'm hoping that my fancy flying will distract you from the fact that I got a little lost, used up all my rockets, and almost all of my elytra durability. But after 2 days, I finally made it to the ocean monument. I decided to set up camp for the night and try to conquer the ocean monument in the morning. With the sun rising on day 263, I took off all my armor, drank an invisibility potion, and swam to the top of the ocean monument. I drank some milk to take away the mining fatigue effect, and dug a hole right into the first Ender Guardian room. Then I swam back to shore so I could drink all my potions and prepare for my first fight. I cautiously hid behind my doors for cover and air while throwing my trident until I finally killed my first Elder Guardian. Then I took off my armor and swam around to find the next boss. This one had some company, so he was a little harder to kill, but with his defeat I had 2 sponges and I was on my way to get a third. With a feeling of confidence, I swung my sword and struck down the last Elder Guardian. Then I drank some more milk and my last potion of invisibility so I could loot this gold and make my escape. And on day 265, I got rid of all my effects and sailed on home. On day 266, as I was working my way back to my house, I fell into another one of Herobrine's traps. Quite literally. He just loves using zombies to prank me. So that night I decided to brew up some more health potions and then went to bed only to find he'd put another trap inside my house. From day 267 to 270, I spent designing the entrance to my kingdom. I really liked how it turned out, and I also made some more progress on the base of my wall. It was really coming together. I spent the next few days mining with the wrong pickaxe again, and because we had some ocean related goals for this video, I decided to add a few builds in and around the ocean, starting with this big fire pit that ships could use to help them avoid crashing into land on a dark and foggy night. The outline was a little uneven, but before I could even fix it, I got into a pretty scary fight with a creeper, and this wandering trader just watched me suffer as he sat safely on top of my furnace array. Once I killed that creeper, I started getting shot at by another skeleton, so I ran into my furnace array building for safety and almost got it all blown up. The next day, I fixed my little mistake and got some nice target practice in with my trident. The next thing I wanted to build was a dock. So I spent a little bit of time getting some spruce wood and used the spruce logs as stilts to hold up my dock. If you use a slightly darker wood for all the parts that are touching the water, it will make it look like the wood is actually wet. I also added a nice little harbor house. On day 80, I went back to work on the base of my wall. The foundation was all in place, and the area without a wall will one day have a castle on it. Being super happy with how all my builds were turning out, I decided to head over to my mine to get a few more days of mining cobblestone in with the wrong pickaxe. On the night of day 288, I went to go smelt some gold ore and found a bunch of gold ingots that I had forgotten about from previous mining sessions. I had a lot of gold, a lot of apples, and a lot of diamonds, as well as a conduit, but the next day I realized that I would need a lot more prismarine blocks if I wanted the conduit to work. So after crafting some new rockets, I pulled back out the map and was ready to fly off, and I'd saved the coordinates so that way I could fly straight there, except I had forgotten to put my elytra on. So once I grabbed the elytra, I put it on, went outside, and I realized I somehow left Coco over at my mine. But I would just get him later because I needed to get some prismarine blocks. And once I had a stack of prismarine blocks, I flew on home. Day 290, I was able to see underwater and breathe underwater because by the end of the day, I had figured out how to get the conduit to work. So day 291, I felt inspired to build some cool underwater builds. I built something to hold my floating conduit and a cool underwater gazebo that I would absolutely love to find while exploring vanilla Minecraft. With this cool tower and this pretty gazebo, I had a good start to an underwater village. And what underwater build isn't complete without a bunch of floating blocks above it? While these builds were cool, they also inspired Herobrine's next prank. I was heading back home to unload all my stuff, and when I walked in, I realized my floor was just a little bit different than normal. Herobrine had some fun of his own making a pond right in the middle of my house, but you do have to love his attention to detail. So for the rest of that day, I had to replace my floor and go bring Coco home from the mine. I don't know how I left him there. I literally ran just right past him. And this time I feel just a little bit bad because this wasn't the first time it happened. From day 294 to 296, I spent testing out my new dock and fishing rod and found out that it had a slight design flaw. So I had to stand up on the little balcony to actually get my fish. And during these next few nights, I went around slaying some creepers for some gunpowder. And I ended up getting into a fight with a lot more things than creepers. And it actually looked really creepy when these zombies chased me through my wheat field. And one of those nights, I fell down into a hole and a bunch of zombies kept jumping in and attacking me, but I had no blocks to build out. I did get this name tag while fishing, but it wasn't the most effective tool to dig out with. On day 297, I realized I had only a few more days to accomplish my last goal. I had gotten myself a trident, conquered an ocean monument, but I still had to find where Herobrine goes when he runs into the fog. So after crafting up some more rockets with the gunpowder I got from the creepers, I repaired my elytra at the Enderman farm and started flying in the direction that Herobrine came from when he started the raid. After flying around for a couple days, on day 299, I figured I was close to Herobrine's home when the fog got thicker. There were no leaves on the trees. And there were some yellow sheep around, I guess Herobrine used for the wheat prank. As I ventured deeper into the fog, I came across a mountain with Herobrine's face carved into the side of it. But he seemed to have his base pretty well guarded. I definitely had to fight my way to the entrance. All these phantoms knocked me down to half health, and once I killed all the mobs outside, I drank a health potion, and then it was time to go in. could not believe my eyes. It was like the Matrix. I had gotten my answer, but now I had so many more questions. But for now, I'm just glad I made it home safely, and I spent the rest of the day playing with my dogs, happy that I survived 300 days in mega ultra hardcore Minecraft. Special thanks to TheNotable for inspiring the 100 days trend, all of my patrons for your continued support, and of course you for watching. And since you made it this far in the video, consider following me on Twitch. I stream there every week, and follow me on Instagram and Twitter as well. Links in the description. Thanks again for watching.